Evan, stop twisting this out. That video doesn't mean anything.
Kendra, you erased me long before that video.
I came home Tuesday evening to find every trace of my existence had been surgically removed from our apartment. Not my clothes or my coffee mug. Those remained like loyal soldiers at their posts. No, what vanished were the wedding photos, the vacation snapshots, the casual couple's selfies that once decorated our mantelpiece like evidence of a functioning marriage. "Kendra?" I called out, setting my briefcase down in our spotless entryway. The silence that greeted me had weight to it, the kind that settles in your chest and makes you wonder if you're walking into an ambush. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. She emerged from her home studio, a converted bedroom that housed more ring lights than a Hollywood set, looking like she'd stepped out of a magazine spread, which, knowing my wife, she probably had. "Hey, babe." Her smile was camera-ready, all teeth and no warmth. "How was work?" I gestured toward the empty picture frames scattered across our kitchen counter. "Planning to tell me why our wedding photos are taking a dirt nap?" Kendra's laugh tinkled like expensive wind chimes. "Oh, that. My brand consultant says the feed needs a cleaner aesthetic. More aspirational, less domestic." Domestic. I rolled the word around in my mouth like a whine I was considering spitting out. "That's what we're calling our marriage now." "Don't be dramatic, Evan. It's just for the rebrand. The cosmetics company wants their ambassadors to project independence, success, that whole boss babe energy." She was already scrolling through her phone, thumb dancing across the screen with practiced efficiency. "You understand." I understood plenty. I understood that my wife of 3 years had just informed me I was bad for her image. I understood that somewhere along the way, our relationship had become a business decision. What I didn't understand was why I was still standing there taking it like a chump. Right, wouldn't want to clash with the blush tones. She looked up from her phone long enough to flash that magazine smile again. "Exactly, you get it." But I was already walking away, heading for the bedroom where I could think without the constant click of her acrylic nails against glass. Her bedroom, looked like a hotel suite designed by someone who'd never actually slept in a bed. White everything, minimal furniture, and not a single personal touch that couldn't be monetized. I sat on the edge of our California King and pulled out my own phone. 3 missed calls from Jonas, my buddy who worked security at Westfield Mall. We'd played high school football together back when the world made sense and people meant what they said. His text was short. "Dude, call me, important." I stepped onto our balcony, sliding the glass door shut behind me. The city sprawled out below us, all twinkling lights and broken promises. Kendra had insisted on this apartment. 23rd floor, downtown views, rent that made my financial planner's soul weep. But it photographed well, and in her world, that was all that mattered. Jonas picked up on the first ring. "Evan, man, I've been trying to reach you." "What's up?" "Look, this is awkward as hell, but I thought you should know. I was reviewing security footage from last weekend, and I saw Kendra at Club Meridian. She wasn't alone." My grip tightened on the phone. "Go on." "She was with some guy, tall, built like he lives at the gym. They were close, really close." I closed my eyes, feeling something cold and sharp settle in my stomach. "How close?" "Hand-holding, whispering in each other's ears, the whole 9 yards. I've got it on my phone if you want to see it." "Send it over." The video arrived 30 seconds later. Even through the grainy security footage, there was no mistaking my wife's platinum blonde hair or her signature red lipstick. The man beside her had the kind of sculpted physique that screamed Instagram fitness model. They were sitting in a corner booth, her hand resting on his forearm, his lips close enough to her ear to fog up her earrings. I watched it 3 times, each viewing adding another layer to the cold fury building in my chest. Not heartbreak. I'd passed that exit ramp months ago. This was something sharper, more focused. This was the moment I realized I'd been playing checkers while my wife was playing chess. "Evan? You still there?" "Yeah. Thanks for sending this." "I'm sorry, man. I know this sucks." "Actually, Jonas, I think this might be exactly what I needed." I hung up and slid the phone back into my pocket. Through the glass door, I could see Kendra setting up for another photo shoot, adjusting ring lights and checking camera angles. Always performing, always on. Even our conversations felt scripted, like she was reading from cue cards written by her brand consultant. She'd erased me from her social media, from our home, from her carefully curated life. Fair enough. Let's see how she liked being erased from mine. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in months. I really looked at my wife. Not the quick glances over coffee or the distracted nods during her monologues about engagement rates and brand partnerships. I studied her like a financial statement that wasn't adding up. Kendra was already dressed for her day, wearing what she called her casual chic uniform. Designer athleisure that cost more than most people's car payments, makeup applied with surgical precision, hair that defied both gravity and logic. She moved through our kitchen like she was being filmed, which, knowing her, she probably was. "Morning, babe," she chirped, not looking up from her phone. "I've got 3 shoots today, then that networking thing tonight. Don't wait up." Networking thing? Industry mixer. Boring stuff, but you know how it is. Gotta maintain visibility. I poured myself coffee from the machine she'd bought because it photographed better than our old one. "Where's this mixer?" For just a second, her thumb stopped scrolling. "Downtown. Some rooftop bar. Very exclusive." "Sounds fun. Mind if I tag along?" Now she looked up, and I caught something flickering behind her eyes. Panic? Annoyance? Hard to tell with all the false eyelashes. "Oh, you'd hate it. Just a bunch of influencers talking shop. Besides, don't you have that client dinner thing?" I didn't have a client dinner thing, and she knew it, but I nodded anyway. "Right. Forgot about that." She kissed my cheek, leaving a lipstick print I'd have to scrub off later. "See you tonight. Love you." The words hung in the air like smoke after she left, dissipating into nothing. I finished my coffee and headed to work, but my mind was already 3 moves ahead. My office was a testament to everything Kendra found boring about me. Organized, practical, devoid of ring lights or camera equipment. I'd built my financial planning practice from nothing, one satisfied client at a time. It wasn't glamorous, but it was real. It was mine. I pulled up our joint bank accounts and credit card statements. If Kendra was living a double life, the money would tell the story. And what a story it was. Charges at restaurants I'd never been to, shopping sprees on days she'd claimed to be working, hotel bars, expensive lingerie, a fitness club membership she'd never mentioned. The pattern was clear once you knew what to look for, but the real smoking gun was buried in her business expenses. She'd been writing off professional development sessions with someone called Troy Maddox. A quick Google search revealed Troy to be exactly what I'd expected. A fitness model with the kind of abs that made regular humans feel inadequate. His Instagram was a shrine to his own reflection, all protein shake sponsorships and gym selfies. I scrolled through his recent posts until I found what I was looking for, a photo from last weekend tagged at Club Meridian. In the background, barely visible but unmistakably there, was a flash of platinum blonde hair and red lipstick. My phone buzzed, a text from Kendra. "Shoot running late, won't be home for dinner. Order something good." I looked at the timestamp on Troy's photo, posted at 8:47 p.m. last Saturday. According to Kendra, she'd been at a brand strategy session that night. Either she was developing strategy in a nightclub, or my wife was a liar. I was betting on liar. The rest of the day crawled by like a funeral procession. I met with clients, reviewed portfolios, dispensed financial advice with the kind of detached professionalism that came from years of practice. But underneath it all, a plan was forming. Cold, methodical, and absolutely bulletproof. By 5 o'clock, I'd made my decision. If Kendra wanted to play games, I'd show her what happened when you challenge someone who made a living managing other people's money. She'd forgotten one crucial detail about her boring domestic husband. I was very good with numbers, and I knew exactly where all our money was. That evening, I drove downtown to the rooftop bar she'd mentioned. The Meridian Sky Lounge was exactly the kind of place Kendra loved. Overpriced cocktails, dramatic city views, and enough ambient lighting to make everyone look like they belonged on a magazine cover. I found a table with a clear view of the entrance and ordered a whiskey. I didn't have to wait long. Kendra arrived at 8:30, but she wasn't alone. Troy Maddox walked beside her like he owned the place, all swagger and spray tan. They moved through the crowd like celebrities, stopping to air-kiss other beautiful people and pose for impromptu photos. I watched them settle into a corner booth, the same one from Jonas's security footage. Watched Troy's hand find the small of my wife's back. Watched her lean into him like he was magnetic north, and she was a compass that had finally found its direction. I pulled out my phone and started recording. They say the camera adds 10 pounds, but apparently it also subtracts about 3 years of marriage and any pretense of fidelity. Through my phone's screen, I watched my wife transform into someone I barely recognized. Gone was the careful, calculated woman who treated our conversations like business meetings. This version of Kendra was animated, laughing with genuine warmth, touching Troy's arm like she owned it. I finished my whiskey and walked over to their table. "Hey there, stranger." Kendra's face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds flat. Surprise, guilt, panic, and finally settling on that practice smile she used for difficult clients. "Evan, what are you doing here?" "Thought I'd check out this networking event you mentioned. Very exclusive." I looked around the bar, taking in the influencers and wannabe models scattered across the rooftop, though I'm not seeing much networking happening. Troy extended his hand like we were meeting at a church social. "You must be Evan. I'm Troy. I've heard so much about you." "I'll bet you have," I thought, but I shook his hand anyway. His grip was firm, the kind of handshake that was supposed to communicate confidence and dominance. What it actually communicated was insecurity wrapped in protein powder and fake tan. "Troy's been helping me with some fitness content," Kendra said, her voice pitched slightly higher than normal. "You know, for the rebrand." "Fitness content?" I nodded thoughtfully. "Is that what we're calling it?" The silence that followed was thick enough to cut with a knife. Troy looked confused, like someone had just explained quantum physics using interpretive dance. Kendra's smile was starting to crack around the edges. "Maybe we should talk about this at home," she said. "Oh, I think here is perfect." I pulled out my phone and showed them the video I'd just recorded. "Smile, you two. You're going to be famous." Troy's confusion deepened. "Dude, what's your problem?" "My problem?" I laughed, and it came out colder than I'd intended. "My problem is that my wife has been lying to me for months. My problem is that she's been using our joint credit card to fund her little fitness sessions. My problem is that she erased me from her life so completely that I started to wonder if I ever existed at all." Kendra reached for my phone. "Delete that." I pulled it back, just out of her reach. "I don't think so. See, I've been doing some networking of my own. Turns out your cosmetics sponsor has very strict morality clauses in their contracts. Something about maintaining a clean, family-friendly image." The color drained from her face. "You wouldn't. Wouldn't I? You wanted a clean aesthetic, remember? Well, congratulations. You're about to get one." Troy finally seemed to grasp what was happening. He stood up, all 6 feet of manufactured masculinity towering over our table. "Look, man, maybe we should take this outside." "Sit down, Troy." My voice was quiet, but something in it made him hesitate. "Unless you want your modeling agency to know you've been violating their client relationship policies." He sat down. I looked at my wife, really looked at her, for what I knew would be the last time. 3 years, Kendra. 3 years I supported your dreams, your career, your endless need for validation from strangers on the internet. And this is how you repay me? By erasing me like I never mattered. It's not like that," she whispered. "No? Then what is it like? Explain to me how spending our money on hotel bars and lingerie for your fitness instructor is part of your professional development." Troy shifted uncomfortably. "Maybe I should go?" "Stay right there," I said without looking at him. "You're part of the story now." Ahem, I stood up, straightening my tie. Around us, other patrons were starting to notice the drama unfolding in the corner booth. Some were even recording with their phones. In Kendra's world, everything was content. "Here's what's going to happen," I said, my voice carrying just enough to reach the nearby tables. "I'm going home to pack your things. You can pick them up from the lobby tomorrow. The credit cards are canceled, the bank accounts are frozen, and the lease is in my name only." "You can't do that," Kendra said, but her voice lacked conviction. "Actually, I can. Funny thing about being married to a financial planner, you learn a lot about protecting your assets." I smiled, and it felt like the first genuine expression I'd worn in months. "Oh, and Kendra? That video I just took? It's already backed up to the cloud. Wouldn't want to lose such precious memories." I walked away without looking back, leaving them sitting in their corner booth like actors who'd forgotten their lines. The elevator ride down felt like descending from a great height, my ears popping as the pressure changed. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone was buzzing with notifications. Kendra was calling, texting, probably panicking as the reality of her situation sank in. I turned the phone off and drove home through the city streets, feeling lighter than I had in years. I spent that night methodically dismantling 3 years of shared financial infrastructure. It was like performing surgery on a relationship, cutting away the diseased parts while trying to preserve what little healthy tissue remained. Spoiler alert, there wasn't much left to save. First, I removed Kendra from all our joint accounts. As the primary account holder, I had every legal right to do so. Her credit cards, the ones she'd used to fund her fitness sessions with Troy, were canceled with a single phone call. Her access to our investment accounts, our savings, even the grocery money, gone. Next, I changed every password she might know. Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, the Wi-Fi network. If it required a login, I locked her out. It was petty, maybe, but after watching her erase me from her digital life, I found a certain poetic justice in returning the favor. The apartment lease was in my name only, another precaution I'd taken when we'd moved in together. At the time, it had been about credit scores and financial responsibility. Now, it felt like divine providence. By 3 a.m., I had packed everything that belonged to her into boxes and suitcases. Her ring lights, her camera equipment, her collection of barely worn designer clothes, all of it went into neat labeled containers. I even included a handwritten inventory, because I'm nothing if not thorough. I set everything in the lobby with a note for the doorman. Mrs. Pike will be collecting these items. Please have her sign for them. Then I went to bed and slept better than I had in months. My phone started ringing at 6 a.m. Kendra's name flashed on the screen like a warning light. I let it go to voicemail, then listened to her increasingly frantic messages while I made coffee. Evan, what the hell? My card was declined at Starbucks. Call me back. Seriously, this isn't funny. I have a shoot in an hour and I can't get an Uber. Answer your goddamn phone. I know you're doing this on purpose. The messages got progressively more desperate as the morning wore on. By the 4th one, she was crying. By the 7th, she was threatening to call the police. By the 10th, she was begging. I deleted them all and went to work. My assistant, Margaret, looked up as I walked into the office. She was 60-something, had been with me since I started the practice, and possessed the kind of intuitive understanding that made her worth her weight in gold. You look different, she said. Different how? Lighter, like you've been carrying something heavy and finally put it down. I smiled. Something like that. Can you hold my calls this morning? I need to make some personal arrangements. The first call was to Kendra's cosmetics sponsor. I'd done my research the night before, finding the contact information for their brand management team. The woman who answered sounded young, eager, probably an intern who'd drawn the short straw for morning phone duty. Hi, this is Evan Lorne. I'm calling about one of your brand ambassadors, Kendra Pike. I have some information about her recent activities that might interest your team. Oh, okay. What kind of information? I explained the situation in clinical terms, like I was reviewing a quarterly report, the violation of her exclusivity clause, the undisclosed personal relationships, the potential damage to their family-friendly brand image. I even offered to send them the video evidence. The intern put me on hold for 10 minutes. When she came back, her voice had lost its eager edge. Thank you for bringing this to our attention, Mr. Lorne. We'll be in touch with Ms. Pike about her contract status. The second call was to Troy's modeling agency. Same script, different audience. The man I spoke with sounded tired, like this wasn't his first rodeo with problematic talent. We appreciate you reaching out, he said. Professional conduct is very important to our agency's reputation. By lunchtime, I'd made 6 more calls. Kendra's photographer, her brand consultant, the fitness club where she and Troy had been meeting, even a few of the smaller companies that sponsored her posts. I was thorough, methodical, and completely ruthless. My phone rang at 2 p.m. Jonas. Dude, what did you do? Kendra's been calling the mall security office all morning, asking if we can help her get into your apartment. What did you tell her? That we don't do domestic disputes. But seriously, she sounded pretty desperate. Good. She should be. Evan, man, I know she hurt you, but maybe you should talk to her. Work things out. Jonas, would you work things out with someone who stole from you? She stole from you. She used our joint credit card to fund her affair. In my book, that's theft. The line went quiet for a moment. Damn, I didn't know it was that bad. It's worse, but don't worry. I'm handling it legally and ethically. No one's getting hurt, just inconvenienced. After I hung up, I sat back in my chair and looked out the window at the city below. Somewhere out there, Kendra was probably discovering that her carefully constructed digital empire was crumbling. Her sponsors were pulling out, her income was evaporating, and her access to the lifestyle she'd taken for granted was gone. It should have felt like victory. Instead, it just felt like Tuesday. The first crack in Kendra's facade appeared on her Instagram story at 3:47 p.m. I wasn't following her anymore. I'd unfollowed all her accounts that morning, but screenshots have a way of finding their way back to you when you're married to someone whose entire life is public performance. It was a photo of her sitting in a coffee shop, makeup slightly smudged, with the caption, "When life throws you curveballs, you swing harder. Blessed, Hauchier, strong women, twar never give up." The comments section was already filling up with her usual army of supporters, but I noticed something different. Mixed in with the heart emojis and "you go girl" messages were questions. Where had she been lately? Why hadn't she been posting her usual content? Was everything okay with her marriage? That last question came from someone named Influencer T, an account I'd never seen before, but whose bio described them as spilling the hottest gossip in the influencer world. I made a mental note to check back on that account later. By 5 p.m., Kendra had posted 3 more stories, each one more desperate than the last. A video of her walking through downtown, talking about new beginnings and finding herself. A photo of her reflection in a store window with some nonsense about inner beauty. A screenshot of a motivational quote about overcoming adversity. It was painful to watch, like seeing someone try to put out a house fire with a garden hose. My phone rang at 6. This time, I answered. "Evan, thank God. We need to talk." Her voice was different, smaller. The practiced confidence that usually coated her words like shellac was gone, replaced by something raw and desperate. "Do we?" "Please. I know you're angry, and you have every right to be, but we can work this out. We can fix this." "Fix what, exactly?" "Us. Our marriage. I made a mistake, okay? I admit it. But it didn't mean anything. Troy was just... He was just a distraction. You're my husband. You're the one I love." I almost laughed. Funny way of showing it. "I know how it looks, but you don't understand the pressure I'm under. The constant need to create content, to stay relevant, to keep the sponsors happy. Sometimes I just needed to feel like a normal person, not a brand." "So you decided to feel normal with Troy." "It wasn't supposed to happen. We were just friends at first, and then things got complicated." "Complicated?" I tasted the word like it was something bitter. "Is that what you call spending our money on hotel rooms?" The silence stretched between us like a chasm. When she spoke again, her voice was barely a whisper. "How did you find out about the hotels?" "I'm a financial planner, Kendra. I know how to read bank statements." Oh God, you know everything." "I know enough. Evan, please. I'll end it with Troy. I'll delete my social media accounts. I'll do whatever you want, but please don't leave me. I can't do this without you." For just a moment, I felt something that might have been sympathy. This woman who had spent the last year treating me like an inconvenience was falling apart, and part of me wanted to catch her. But then I remembered the empty picture frames, the erased photos, the casual way she'd written me out of her story. "You should have thought of that before you decided I was bad for your aesthetic." That was stupid. I was being stupid, but I can change. We can start over. "No, we can't. Some things can't be undone, Kendra. Some bridges once burned don't get rebuilt." I hung up and turned off my phone. That evening, I went to Omar's boxing gym. It was the kind of place Kendra would have hated. All sweat and honest effort, no ring lights or camera angles. Just men and women working out their frustrations on heavy bags and speed bags, finding clarity in the rhythm of leather against flesh. Omar was in his late 50s, a former Golden Gloves champion who'd opened the gym after his fighting days ended. He'd been training me for 2 years, ever since I'd decided I needed a hobby that didn't involve spreadsheets and tax codes. "You're hitting different tonight," he said, watching me work the heavy bag. "More focused." "Had a good day?" "Yeah? You seem like a man who just solved a problem." I threw a combination, jab, cross, hook, and felt the satisfying impact travel up my arms. "Something like that." "Woman problems?" "Woman solutions." Omar laughed. "That's either very good or very bad. Time will tell." I stayed until the gym closed, working out 3 years of accumulated frustration on the equipment. By the time I got home, I felt like myself again for the first time in months. The apartment was quiet, empty of Kendra's constant chatter and the endless clicking of her phone camera. I made myself dinner. Actual dinner, not the Instagram-worthy salads she'd insisted we eat, and settled in to watch the news. My phone, which I'd turned back on, showed 17 missed calls and 43 text messages. All from Kendra. I deleted them without reading them and went to bed. The next morning brought fresh chaos. I woke up to find that influencer T had posted a detailed thread about Kendra's mysterious disappearance from social media, complete with screenshots of her recent erratic posts and speculation about trouble in her marriage. The thread had been shared hundreds of times, with comments ranging from concerned to catty to downright vicious. The influencer world, I was learning, was a shark tank where red liquid in the water brought out everyone's predatory instincts. But the real entertainment came from Kendra's response. She'd posted a lengthy Instagram story, the kind that takes up 15 slides and requires serious commitment to read through, explaining her recent absence as a digital detox and spiritual journey. It was masterful fiction. According to her narrative, she'd been taking time to reconnect with her authentic self and evaluate what truly mattered in life. The affair with Troy was rebranded as a professional collaboration that had been misunderstood by people with negative intentions. She even managed to work in some subtle digs at me, referring to unsupportive people who couldn't handle her success and tried to tear her down when she was building her empire. I had to admire the audacity. Even with her world crumbling around her, she was still trying to control the narrative. My phone rang. Margaret's voice was tight with disapproval. "There's a woman here to see you. Says she's your wife. She's persistent. Send her in." Kendra walked into my office looking like she'd been assembled by a team of professionals. Her makeup was flawless, her outfit perfectly coordinated, her hair styled to casual perfection. But I could see the cracks in the facade, the slight tremor in her hands, the tightness around her eyes, the way she held herself like she was afraid of falling apart. "Nice office," she said, looking around at my deliberately boring decor. "Very you. What do you want, Kendra?" "I want my husband back." She sat down across from my desk, crossing her legs in a way that had once driven me crazy. Now it just looked calculated, like everything else about her. "I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, and you're right. I lost sight of what was important. I got caught up in the fame and the money and the attention, and I forgot about us. There is no us. There could be, if you'll let me prove that I've changed." I leaned back in my chair, studying her like a balance sheet that didn't add up. "How exactly would you do that?" "I'll quit. The influencer thing, the brand partnerships, all of it. We can start over somewhere new, just the two of us. No cameras, no social media, no distractions." "What about Troy?" Her composure slipped for just a second. "What about him?" "Have you told him you're quitting? That you're choosing your marriage over your fitness instructor? He'll understand. Will he? Because according to his Instagram, you two have a couples workout session scheduled for this afternoon." The color drained from her face. "You're following his Instagram?" "I'm following the money, Kendra. The money you spent on hotel rooms, expensive dinners, and a joint gym membership I never knew about." She opened her mouth to respond, but I held up a hand to stop her. "Here's what's really going to happen. You're going to sign the divorce papers my lawyer is preparing. You're going to take responsibility for your own debts and expenses. And you're going to stop pretending that this marriage was anything more than a business arrangement that stopped being profitable." "Evan, please. I'm not finished." My voice was quiet, but it cut through her protests like a blade. "You erased me from your life so thoroughly that I started to question my own existence. You turned our home into a film set, our conversations into content opportunities, and our marriage into a brand partnership. Well, congratulations. Your brand is officially discontinued." She sat there for a long moment, her perfect composure finally cracking. When she spoke, her voice was small and broken. "I never meant for it to go this far. But it did. And now we both have to live with the consequences." She stood up slowly, like an old woman despite being only 29. At the door, she turned back one last time. "I did love you, you know, in the beginning." "I know," I said. "That's what makes this so sad." After she left, I sat in my office for a long time, looking out at the city and thinking about the strange turns life can take. 3 days ago, I'd been a man whose wife was embarrassed by his existence. Now I was a man whose wife was begging for another chance. The funny thing was, I didn't feel victorious. I felt empty, like I'd won a game that nobody should have been playing in the first place. The divorce papers were filed on a Thursday. By Friday afternoon, Kendra's entire digital empire had collapsed like a house of cards in a hurricane. The cosmetics company had officially terminated her contract, citing behavior inconsistent with brand values. Troy's modeling agency had suspended him pending an investigation into his professional conduct. 3 other sponsors had quietly dropped her, and the fitness club had revoked her membership. But the real final blow came from an unexpected source. Leah Morrison, Kendra's best friend and business manager. I first learned about Leah's betrayal from another outer influencer T-post, this one featuring screenshots of private messages between the two women. In the messages, Leah expressed frustration with Kendra's diva behavior and complained about being treated like an unpaid assistant instead of a business partner. The screenshots revealed that Leah had been feeding information to gossip accounts for months, documenting Kendra's affair with Troy, her financial troubles, and her increasingly erratic behavior. She'd even been secretly recording their phone conversations, building a case file of drama that she could sell to the highest bidder. The betrayal was so complete, so calculated, that I almost felt sorry for Kendra. Almost. My phone rang Saturday morning. It was Leah. "Evan? Hi, it's Leah Morrison, Kendra's friend. I was wondering if we could meet." I knew who she was. Tall, brunette, with the kind of sharp intelligence that could cut glass when properly applied. She'd been at our wedding, had come to dinner parties at our apartment, had smiled and laughed and pretended to be part of our extended family. "What can I do for you, Leah?" "I think we might be able to help each other." We met at a coffee shop downtown, the kind of aggressively hip place where the baristas had art degrees and the coffee cost more than most people made in an hour. Leah was already waiting when I arrived, looking polished and professional despite the circumstances. "Thank you for meeting me," she said as I sat down. "I know this is awkward." "Awkward is one word for it." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Look, I'll cut to the chase. I know you're the one who's been feeding information to the gossip accounts. The timing is too perfect to be coincidental." I sipped my coffee and said nothing. "Here's the thing," she continued. "I've been documenting Kendra's behavior for months. I have videos, recordings, screenshots, enough material to completely destroy what's left of her reputation. And you're telling me this because? Because I think we want the same thing. Kendra has been using people for years, taking credit for other people's work, treating everyone around her like they exist solely for her benefit. It's time someone held her accountable." I set down my coffee cup and looked at her carefully. "What exactly are you proposing?" "A partnership. Okay, you have the financial information, I have the personal details. Together, we can make sure she never recovers from this." It was tempting, I had to admit. The idea of completely obliterating Kendra's chances of rebuilding her career had a certain appeal, but something about Leah's eagerness made me uncomfortable. "Why now?" I asked. "You've been friends for years. Why turn on her now?" Leah's mask slipped for just a moment, revealing something cold and calculating underneath. "Because she was going to fire me. Replace me with some hotshot manager from LA who promised to triple her income. After everything I've done for her, she was going to throw me away like yesterday's content." And there it was. This wasn't about justice or accountability. This was about revenge, pure and simple. Leah was a woman scorned, and she wanted to burn down everything in her path. "I appreciate the offer," I said, standing up, "but I think I'll pass." "Evan, wait. You don't understand what I'm offering here. I can give you enough ammunition to make sure Kendra never works in this industry again. She's already finished in this industry, and honestly, that's enough for me." I left Leah sitting in the coffee shop, probably already planning her next move. I'd learned enough about the influencer world to know that people like her always landed on their feet, usually on someone else's back. That evening, I went back to Omar's gym. The familiar rhythm of training helped clear my head, washing away the lingering unpleasantness of my conversation with Leah. "You seem different tonight," Omar observed. "Less angry." "Maybe because I'm not angry anymore." "That's good. Anger's useful for motivation, but it's poison if you hold on to it too long." I threw a combination at the heavy bag, feeling the satisfying impact travel up my arms. "What comes after anger?" "Whatever you choose. That's the beautiful thing about letting go. It opens up space for something better." As I drove home through the city streets, I thought about Omar's words. For the first time in months, maybe years, I felt like I had choices. Real choices, not just reactions to Kendra's latest crisis or scheme. My phone had been quiet all day. No desperate calls from my soon-to-be ex-wife, no threatening messages from her allies, no drama disguised as emergencies. Just blessed, peaceful silence. I was finally free. Monday morning brought one last surprise. I arrived at my office to find Troy Maddox waiting in the lobby, looking like a fitness model who'd gotten lost on his way to a photo shoot. He was pacing back and forth, all nervous energy and barely contained aggression. Margaret looked up from her desk with an expression that could have frozen lava. "He's been here for 20 minutes. Says he needs to talk to you about Kendra." "Send him in." Troy followed me into my office, his presence filling the space like expensive cologne. Up close, he was even more ridiculous than his photos suggested, all spray tan and protein powder, with the kind of manufactured perfection that looked great on camera but slightly plastic in person. "We need to talk," he said without preamble. "About what?" "About what you did to Kendra, and to me." I sat down behind my desk and gestured for him to take a seat. He remained standing, probably because it made him feel more imposing. "What exactly did I do?" "You ruined her career, got her dropped from her sponsors, destroyed her reputation, made it impossible for her to work in this industry." I provided factual information to interested parties. What they chose to do with that information was their decision. Troy's hands clenched into fists. "Don't play word games with me, man. You know what you did." I leaned back in my chair, studying him with the same detached interest I'd apply to a particularly complex tax return. "What I did was protect my financial interests from someone who was stealing from me. What you did was help her steal. It wasn't stealing. She's your wife. Soon-to-be ex-wife. And using joint credit cards to fund an extramarital affair is absolutely stealing." The color rose in Troy's face. clashing unattractively with his artificial tan. Look, I came here to work something out. Kendra's broke, she's lost everything, and it's not fair. She made one mistake. One mistake that lasted 6 months and cost me $15,000. I'll pay you back. That surprised me. You'll pay me back? Yeah, I've got some modeling contracts coming up, a fitness DVD deal in the works. I can get you the money. I almost laughed. Troy, your agency suspended you. Your fitness DVD deal evaporated the moment this scandal broke. You're as finished as she is. The truth hit him like a physical blow. His shoulders sagged, and for the first time since he'd walked into my office, he looked human instead of like a Ken doll that had come to life. This is all wrong, he said. Kendra's a good person. She doesn't deserve this. A good person who was cheating on her husband and lying to her sponsors. She was going to leave you anyway. She told me she'd been unhappy for years, that you didn't support her dreams, that you resented her success. Now I did laugh, short and bitter. Her success? Troy, do you know what Kendra's net income was last year after expenses? He looked confused. What do you mean? I mean, after paying for her equipment, her photo shoots, her wardrobe, her marketing, her business manager, and all the other costs associated with her career, she made about $12,000. I made more than that in a single month. The confusion deepened. But she was always buying stuff, going to expensive restaurants. With my money, with our joint credit cards and bank accounts. Kendra wasn't successful, Troy. She was subsidized. He sat down heavily in the chair across from my desk, the fight going out of him like air from a punctured balloon. She told me she was making 6 figures. She was spending 6 figures. There's a difference. We sat in silence for a moment. 2 men who'd been played by the same woman in different ways. Finally, Troy looked up at me with something that might have been respect. You really did love her, didn't you? I did. For a long time, I did. What changed? I thought about it for a moment, trying to put 3 years of slow disillusionment into words. She did. Or maybe I finally saw who she really was. Either way, love isn't enough when the other person sees you as an obstacle to overcome rather than a partner to cherish. Troy nodded slowly. She used to talk about you like you were holding her back, like you were jealous of her success. Maybe I was, in the beginning. But then I realized there was nothing to be jealous of. She wasn't building anything real. She was just performing for strangers, hoping they'd validate her existence. And you? I was building something real. A business, a reputation, a life that mattered. She couldn't see that because it didn't photograph well. Troy stood up, extending his hand again. This time, his grip was different. Less performative, more genuine. I'm sorry, man, for my part in all this. I shook his hand. We all make mistakes. The question is what we learn from them. After he left, I sat in my office for a long time, thinking about the strange journey that had brought me to this point. 3 weeks ago, I'd been a man whose wife was embarrassed by his existence. Today, I was a man who'd reclaimed his life from someone who'd never really valued it. My phone buzzed with a text from Jonas. Saw the news about Kendra online. You okay? I typed back, better than okay, free. And for the first time in years, that was absolutely true.